Good afternoon. Today we're going to go through the data in Data Planet that focuses on education. So we will go down to sort by subject to the education folder. And here's all the data that focuses on education. And some of these folders have quite a bit more data in them. Also, if you browse by source, you'll see all the same data here. Here's some in Department of Education. There's data from the National Science Foundation. But the sort by subject just kind of lumps it together in one easy to manage place. So the first one we'll look at is college athletics. So if we're looking at total participation, immediately we can look at this data by all the institutions within a selected state. So here we're looking at all the schools within the state of Alabama or the state of Colorado, or we can look nationwide at every institution in the country. So we'll go back to Alabama. Let's say if we wanted to look at participation in the football program at Alabama, we'll see that what you're doing here is you're selecting a subject area, and then when you select the subject area, we'll give you the variables for that subject area. So if I wanted to look at total expenses at the University of Alabama, you've got these variables that are available to you. And there's a little bit of a trick here. If I wanted to look at expenses versus revenue, I have to do a multi-select and hold the control key down to add revenue. And notice that we still only have one variable showing, and the reason for that is when you have a subject, when you're selecting a subject here, what happens first is you get all of the variables for both expenses and revenue. So you'll notice here all of the revenue variables, and then here's the expenses. So then I have to hold the control key down again and select revenue. So now I'm looking at the total revenue and expenses by for the football team at Alabama. So again, you have to do a multi-select here to select the different subject areas, and once you select multiple subject areas, all of the variables for that subject area will show up here in the indicator panel. The next thing we want to do is look at library statistics. So again, notice that we've got two folders available for library statistics. One covers years 2000 to 2012, and we'll see that it's archived. And this is important. With Data Planet, we never remove data from the system, but if the data is no longer being published, or if the format of the data has changed so much that we can't include it as part of the same data set, we will archive it and let it, allow the users to still get to it. So you can see that all this data is still here. There's a lot of data there, but it only goes through 2012. In 2013, they really dramatically reconfigured the way that they release data, and they're releasing much fewer indicators. But this is a current data set that's available. So if I wanted to look at the number of books, notice that there's only one data point because they just released this new structure and it only covers 1 year. So let's do a ranking. So in the state of Alabama, that's what the number of the count of physical books look like. And again, we can look at it nationwide or by institutions within a selected state. And so notice that we don't show all of the data. If you go to Show Chart Options, we're only showing the top 100, but if you want to change that, you can change that right here. You can make it 1,000, or in this case, you can make it 10. And what's good about this is it makes it easy if you're going to print to a PDF or print it out to a printer. Printing something with 100 items in the chart makes it unreadable. So I'll change it back to 100 and close it up. Next, we'll go into public library data. And let's see if we're looking at total staff. Notice that this data, we can look at it for the nation, by state, by county, or we can go down to the physical library. So if I wanted to look at counties in the state of Maryland, or if I wanted to look at libraries within Montgomery County, Maryland, that's how it would look. And there's only one public library system in the county of Maryland. See if we want to do a trend of it. That's how we would do that. If we wanted to look at grants data from the National Science Foundation, now again, data from NSF, at some point they changed the structure in the way that they release data. So we've got a data set that's archived, and then we have a current data set. So if we wanted to look at sources of all income for all disciplines, and we wanted to look at it again by state, and let's rank it. Here we have all academic disciplines by state, by source of funds. So this data is available to view by discipline and by source. We have data for every public and private school in the country. And so here for public elementary and secondary schools, we can look at a detailed set of the data that goes down to the actual school level. Then we aggregate the data, and that is useful for looking at student-to-teacher ratios, and then dropouts and completions. And so this data, and something to keep in mind with all of the data that comes out of the National Center for Educational Statistics, when they report a school year, they're reporting it as the start of the school year. So the 2013 actually represents the 2013-2014 school year. This new data should be out in June. For a lot of the Ipeds data that we'll cover for universities, that data is available for the 2014-2015 school year, but in the year it only says 2014, and that's just a function of, if you go onto the NCES website, it may say the number of completions for the 2014-2015 school year, but in the data set itself, the actual data element is 2014. So here we're looking at a school count. So we can look at this data by grade, by gender, by race and ethnicity, and then we can look at it nationally. We can look at it by county, educational agency, or we can go down to the school. So if I wanted to look in Maryland, or if I wanted to look at issues with lunch assistance programs or magnet schools or charter schools nationwide, or I wanted to drill down and get to the school down the street, that's a very easy thing to do. And then you can go and start to multi-select by holding the control key down to add more variables. With the private school census, the same type of thing. What you're doing here is you're selecting a subject area, and we can drill in and look at it by state, by county, or by private schools within a county. So let's see. At the Avalon School, here is the teacher count, or for the Berry School, that's what it would look like. Or we can aggregate it by state. If I wanted to do a ranking, here's how it would look for full-time teachers for private schools in the state of Maryland. Now we'll go to the Ipeds data. There's a lot of interesting data here. First is the applications and admittance data. And let's look at this data by trend. And notice that we have 2014-2015 school year data. And if we wanted to look at the number of applications versus the number of folks that were actually admitted versus the number that enrolled. Now, not all schools will report this data, so you will find data that is blanked out for certain schools across the country. If we go to completions, we can look at total enrollment, again by gender, race, and ethnicity down to the actual institution. And you can multi-select if you wanted to look at full-time versus part-time. That's how we would do it. And notice again, we have faculty salaries where we have 2 data sets. If we wanted to see the most recent data, we have it by the type of faculty, the academic ranking, the contract type, and the gender. I skipped over completions. I didn't mean to do that, so we'll jump up and look at completions. Again, we'll show completions down to the actual university by degree type, by gender, race, and ethnicity. One view of this data that's very powerful is looking at a school by academic degree. So if I remember, when we rank, by default, we'll rank by whatever you have selected in the type. And so here we're looking at institutions by state within the selected state. So within Alabama, here are all of the institutions. But remember, I get this little pull down that allows me to change the variable, the ranking, to any variable in the system. So if I wanted to change it to field of study, I can do that, and now I can select a university and rank it by the completions and field of study. So at Auburn University, their top degree is biomedical sciences. Falstaff is a very good census of staff, again down to the university by category of staff, gender, race, and ethnicity. We have graduation rates by university for the entire staff and for the athletic population. And notice that the athletic population is no longer being published by NCES, so it is archived data. For institutional finance, it's a very powerful data set, and what it gives you is the balance sheet by line item for every college and university in the country. So here we have all of the expenses, the capitalized costs, the revenue, etc., for every college and university. Then we have test scores, and they'll give you the 25th and 75th percentile. And I think that this data is very powerful as a ranking. So again, if I wanted to look at data in the country or data by state, here we have the 25th and 75th percentile for reading, math, and writing skills. And then we go into ACT numbers, and then total counts of students. The last data set in the education is the post-secondary student aid study, which is a very powerful study that gives you all types of metrics on the cost of the school from the student's perspective, and it goes into metrics like in-state versus out-of-state, what kind of grants they're getting, how much are they getting in grants, total financial aid, and then it breaks down the data by private institution and public institution. So, for example, if I wanted to see an average net price to the student of universities in the state of Alabama, that's what it would look like. Or if I wanted to see public universities, that's how we would show it. So I hope you have found this helpful. Thank you very much.